Bloodseeker.
Choose your hero. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Prepare for battle.
每一把都当最后一把，然后就也不要怕输。每一把都当最后一把，然后就也不要怕输。
We do get into a game number 2 here between Boom Esports and Psg.Lgd. John, I've got to admit, Psg.Lgd game 1, they made it look way too easy. You look at these drafts, do you think it might be a bit of a closer matchup here in game 2?
I still feel like LGD does have a really strong draft on hand, but Boom, they've fallen into a couple of comfort picks. You know, you're back to the FBZ Def Prophet that we saw him play throughout the entire season from December onwards, and he's always had a great time with that. And of course, Yopaj on his Kunkka. He had to deal with Nothing to Say's Kunkka, but he's a Kunkka specialist himself. And now Nothing to Say is going to have to try to deal with that on his Ember. And that matchup's going to be a little bit more back and forth. So I think Boom does have a little bit more play, but just considering how easy it is to execute LGD's draft, I mean, it's Drow Visage. If they manage to get a running start, I wouldn't be surprised if they just dominate this game once more, if things go the same way as game 1.
Yeah, it's certainly a very scary draft here from LGD to try and go up against them. It's like you mentioned, John, like the tempo that you can apply here from LGD, the pace you can get going is too much to keep up with if Boom fall behind in this laning stage in this game number 2. We'll see if they can keep up, at least in the second game. Of course, everyone wants a third game to happen, John. We'll see if they can make it happen. It's LGD. We'll start with the mid lane, of course. You're going to have Nothing to Say there against Yopaj. On the Kunkka vs Ember, you kind of talked about the fact that these heroes are both specialties of the enemy hero on the mid lane, but who should have the inherent advantage between these two?
This does feel a little bit better for the Kunkka. I mean, you always have the Tidebird to play with. You're not really mana constrained, whereas the Ember is going to have to juggle around with the waddle down the line, try to secure the water runes to keep that harassment up. Yopaj can just kind of dance back, toss around with the Tideburner, get some good rotations out this time with the supports they have on hand, especially if Skem gets room to kind of swing out with a really nice creep here.
He should block their top lane. Faith Beyond trying to get that creepy equilibrium going his way. Off the back of Sin-Q. Skem and Jackie going to be right against them, and should be a decent enough lane here for Jackie, but levels do get up. You'd have to be a little bit worried about the amount of damage Faith Beyond can pump out, especially once he does have that Soul Assumption up. If he does go for it in the end, as you can see Skem asking him quite a bit here on the edge as well, and he just end up going for the Gravekeeper's cloak instead, just to remain safe against all this harassment. We'll see what he does end up doing.
I like this little move out from Skem. He recognizes that there is no soul assumption. He can comp some damage without being traded back favorably from the side of LGD and just try to give some space out to Jackie. This lane is still pretty annoying for the Bloodseeker. I'm just getting slowed up. Losing a lot of attack speed on the Bloodseeker does make it a little bit more manageable for Fate.Beyond to kind of just work that lane.
What about that bot lane? Tim's and FBZ going to be against Arme and Y once again. This seems like a very potent lane here from Psg.Lgd. Especially once you have a couple levels up in the Frost Arrows in conjunction with the Tombstone from Y, it's just so much damage and so much slow that can be dealt out. Just like if you get caught out of position, there's just no escaping it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Boom to try to be aggressive here. If you can gap close onto Ame, Bushwhack, along with Spirit Siphon, you can kind of melt her down, but with Y blocking off the path on the Undying, you don't have too many access points to reach into that back line without copping a lot of decays, without maybe having the Tombstone come out if you overextend. So I think this is just, again, another safe lane coming out for Ame to just build up, and you shouldn't expect too much from FBZ. Maybe by the time he hits, I don't know, 5 threatening into 6, with the Exorcism ready, that's where action can pick up for Boom. Before that, unless Ame really missteps, it's going to be hard to punish that Drow.
Absolutely. No first blood being drawn quite yet. We are seeing a bit of shenanigans here from Skem and Fate.Beyond. A pull here for Faith to be able to farm securely underneath, or rather behind that tier 1 tower. Though Skem going to be a little bit annoying just hanging around, but actually will pull his own creep wave away as we do see Sin-Q. Again, Fisher blocking here, just trying to set the creep equilibrium the favor of LGD. Just wanting to give Fate.Beyond a very easy lane stage to get started as Skem. He chased down a little bit, but they have nothing to really lock him down, and eventually this creep wave will push into the tier 1 tower. That'll mean it'll push back the other way. Fate.Beyond, he might need to be a little bit patient, but eventually the creep wave is going to be his way. Sin-Q does actually find the courier of Jackie.
Yeah, nice little snipe. Jackie knew it was coming. He tried to micro it back, but didn't manage to get far away enough, so he managed to just snipe it away. Nice little take, but Jackie did manage to get his items out, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Trying to top up in this lane is just going to be a little bit tougher. Sin-Q is out of mana. Does have the mangoes ready, but he is getting the pull off, and there's really not too much Skem can do. He doesn't have anything like the Blightstone. Level 1 enchant, not really going to really slow down Sin-Q, and Fate.Beyond just, again, being allowed to get that EXP, along with a fairly greedy support in the Shaker, right? He does want his own experience flowing in as well. Skem can't really stop that.
Certainly cannot. Go into that Radiant Triangle, just take some creeps away, put a ward down as well. Sin-Q will see him out of there. Is now nothing to say. Mid lane, gonna get X'd up here by Yopaj, but no Torrent to come out. Nice Fisher from Sin-Q, not gonna allow the water rune to go back the way of Yopaj. And eventually, well, Thames, he will secure the bottom water rune at the very least. Nothing to say, he is gonna try and show up for that, but Thames will snipe it away from him. So neither mid lane are able to find a rune here. It seems like LGD did adjust, because this is one thing that Boom Esports were doing very effectively in the early stage of last game, is just securing all the runes and making sure Nothing to Say couldn't get one. This time around, LGD, they're going to make sure at least Yopaj can't find his own.
Yeah, and speaking of that mid lane matchup, we talked about how the Kunkka Ember shapes up. Nothing to Say is actually working lane a lot better. 25-7 now on CS, compared to Yopaj, just stuck at 20-4. Good lead here coming out from Nothing to Say. He's managing to even sneak away the bounty rune there. There's a little bit of action across the map as they try to jump it. They don't really have stuns on Boom's end unless they manage to get a good enchanted creep from Skem. Kind of punish Fate.Beyond. And so far, this kind of static game, it does feel favorable for LGD. I mean, once they build the levels up, you get the marksmanship up, you get the familiars up, and you have this Ember dancing around you, it's very easy for them to jump in and take these fights and go for objectives if Boom isn't careful.
Absolutely. Bot lane, a bit of aggression happening towards Y, it seems. He does drop rather low on the Undying, but still remains just fine. He has not skilled up Tombstone or Soul Rip yet. He's waiting with that skill point. The right moment to see exactly what he needs, but for now, being very, very patient. Doesn't seem like Boom have been too aggressive down to the bot lane either, so it looks like both sides just very satisfied farming up for now throughout this laning stage. We are yet to see a kill to come out. Not really many rotations happening either, though mid lane, Nothing to Say, gonna get X back into a torrent. And real damage to follow up though. Yopaj gonna force the reset out of Nothing to Say. He can always just remnant back into the mid lane anyway. Meanwhile, bot lane, Y is gonna deny himself off. Nothing to go back the way of Boom. Quick reset for himself. And always just TP right back to the lane. The 6-minute power runes now. The spawn up. is going to be down bottom as Yopaj able to take with the DD. However, well, the Hoodwink, that's a nice bushwhack out, nothing to say, dropping rather low, will run it back the other way. However, you've got the enchant there from Scam, controlling up, nothing to say. They might have the damage, but Sin-Q is going to show up with the Fisher, make sure they can't keep chasing, so instead they've got to go after the Shaker, but it might be first but to go the way of Yopaj.
And here come the Shark.
In fact, why? He's still around, he did drop the tombstone here, is now Yopaj. Does get chained up by nothing to say, but there's not going to be much out of this. Just not enough damage. Boom, it seems like they're happy with what they've got.
And they're forcing attention onto Yopaj. It's been playing around really aggressively with that potential on the 6. Of course, it's hard to lock something in like the Ember. Maybe a bit of a small mistake, didn't manage to really get the X off when he got that initial control on nothing to say before he zipped away. But you still find the big kills, you find that first blood, you're buying space out for Jackie, who has had a very free top lane now. So your Bloodseeker is going to meet that initial item timings you're looking for. The Maelstrom coming out, BKB down the line to Shard once the time is ready. And it's going to be pretty tough to shove Jackie away. You still have concerns about Ami though. He's not too shabby down bot either, and FBZ is not able to do as much, but the power spikes are lining up for both sides. Familiar is going to be up for Faith Beyond soon enough. You can just camp that lane up top and keep it shoved out, and FBZ can always threaten with the Exorcism once it's ready.
They're going to slow off Jackie, but not leading too much. Meanwhile, mid lane, however, they've got the Ember stunned up, but nothing to say. Got the Remnant out in time. Can't really follow up.
Step lively now.
Not the Ember Spirit for now. Bush track though is going to land from Tim's. Yopaj going to show up once again, force the Remnants forward. However, they've even got the edge there. A nice good juke away from nothing to say, but they've got the X back with the bone. They will find the Ember. Now that's a much bigger kill coming up from Boom and a much better start from Boom Esports.
Yeah, the aggression's lining up. We saw it in game 1. Tims and Scam were rotating in, but they weren't finding kills. This time around, they're able to play off the setup Yopaj has and dance around it. Sin-Q trying to block off this push. Not the fastest coming out from Boom, especially without FBZ around to kind of speed that up with the EXO. They are chipping away slowly, forcing out responses here.
Still a fair bit of damage thanks to the enchant. Scammers, they are going to try and police chase down the Hoodwink. Tim still finds the bushwhack back onto nothing to say as he does run towards the south. Might actually make it up, but no. He does go down. Scam, he's in danger himself, but the heals are out as FBZ is going to rotate on the DP. Make sure they can't go for too much more. Seems that they are looking for the tombstone, but it may just be too late in the end. Just eventually expire. So 1-3 now, 2k advantage the way of Boom. Anyone's game really at this early stage. Seems like a very nice start compared to the last game, though, at least for this Dire side.
They're finding a little bit more. These small wins are starting to rack up a little bit. Jackie's had all the space in the world to keep farming. He does have a rupture up, but he's being surrounded here.
Issues there. Jackie, can he find his way out of this one? They've got the familiars to back him up. Jackie's still running. Doesn't seem like he's taking too much damage. In fact, now the rupture is there. Sin-Q gonna try and get his way out, but it's not gonna work. The torrent is there. Familiars, they will stun a little bit, but Sin-Q understands he cannot get away. So Yopaj, he'll take his third kill of the game on the Kunkka.
Are scanning.
Just so much activity coming out from Yopaj, and instantly an EXO coming out here as well from FBZ. Trying to take that bot tier 1 tower. The push threat is online for Boom. And LGD, we haven't really seen them group up yet with the threat of the familiars. Again, you kind of want to just camp a lane, keep that farm up, slow down the core. They're not able to threaten in the same way Boom is right now.
Certainly not. Easy able to secure that bottom tier 1. All 3 cores of Boom now top the net worth board. And this is basically a mirror switch of what happened in game 1, at least for now. LGD, they might still be confident in their own timing with this Visage kind of draft. They might just take it easy, get their farm going, just trying to avoid the side of Boom. Boom for now, they want to fight. And you can see this Yopaj going for a bit of a chase onto nothing to say. Won't end up going for the X up yet. In fact, now he's the one on the run. There might be somebody to cut him off soon, but no, it's only Y on the Undying. No way for him to really lock down the Kunkka. They'll just try and take these stacks away before they are forced to leave this Dire jungle.
They take a creep off from Yopaj. Not the biggest loss in the world here for Boom. They did manage to find the tier 1 tower trade eventually from LGD's end, clearing out top. That does give them some good forward control here. There are defensive wards out from Boom to check if anyone is sneaking around the top jungle. And they've switched Jackie around anyway to play into the triangle. The build-up is still there. Still a rather even game, 1-4, 3k lead for Boom, slight advantage for them. On LGD, it feels like we haven't seen them play with their own strengths yet. You know, they're just taking their time, they're building up, they're not losing too much off the map. So things don't feel too bad for LGD at the moment, despite being a little bit behind.
Yeah, still plenty of map control available on their end of things. Q, bit of de-warding out. Very nice, just securing that Radiant jungle. There's nothing to say. He had a bit of a slower start, working towards the Eul Scepter now, so a bit more of a defensive build for himself. Be able to purge off all these spells that are flying out from Boomers. You are going to have the fish around onto FBZ, but it's not going to lead to too much. They will split out Jackie on the Bloodseeker. He's just going to be very confident to stick around here, though. Boom. The smoke up, but there's a counter smoke coming from LGD. Finds which first. Yopaj. Make his way down south. Why? Xingqiu trying to hide right now. Just don't give the opening away. Xingqiu having a very tough time already. Always getting caught out here by Yopaj. Nothing to say, he's a much bigger target. They are going to land the X onto the Ember. This could be a fantastic start if they can find him, but they won't. The turret will be off the mark and the Fisher will be there, so nothing to say. A very nice juke out. We'll be able to TP back towards the base.
Really great juke. Dodges out with a Sleight of Fist. The silence would have been on point, and that could have set up for the side of Boom to find that kill. Nothing to say. Quick Fingers, though, does bail out in the nick of time. Boom, not going to find too much further trouble. They do invade the bot jungle, and they're buying space out for Jackie to keep his farm game up. Maelstrom already on the way out. Same could be said for LGD. Full Vlad's already up in Fate Beyond. Not too far away from the raid pack from this point. And once that's up, all that damage mitigation, all that durability of the Visage up front, it's going to make these fights feel pretty awkward for Boom if they're not careful. If they can't manage to maybe isolate the Visage or just take it out of the equation early on.
That's very rough against this hero, right? Like, just so tanky with the Gravekeeper's Cloak, and you mentioned the Wraith pack to come out makes it even tougher here to deal with Faith Beyond. Really special for heroes as well. We used to watch him years and years ago playing this hero, and see now it's back in meta. That Visage is very, very scary to have to try and play against. It's being built onto the Scam top lane. It's like nothing to say, just kind of poking and prodding at the edge. Scam going to be just fine to stick around though. Has his own way of healing himself. The Seeds of Serenity, I believe it is, and just fine to stick around. Let's say still trying to poke and prod, but it seems like the Ench just going to keep kind of sticking around that top lane. Both sides just very comfortable with farming at the moment. Nobody's rushing for a fight. They're both trying to hit their own timings throughout this mid game. Just sit back, relax. You kind of wonder who this favors, right? Because you did have a pretty decent lead for Boom, and they still hold on to that lead, but is there a timing they look to kind of hit? Because you can kind of tell LGD are trying to hit their own timing throughout that mid game with this Visage.
I think you're okay on Boom. You're just working towards those initial BKBs. Yopaj, very close to his. It's still lacking the recipe goal, but it's going to come out eventually. FBZ, only lacking the recipe. So once you have at least 2 of these BKBs ready to go, you're going to be able to group up, try to look for those fights, try to find those objectives, and then you really start to hurt LGD's farm. For now, if this drags on, say, past the 20-minute mark in the staticness, LGD starts to feel really good. They're going to have their own BKBs. They're going to have their own level spikes. Maybe even down the line, the blink out from Xingqiu starts to pop up. And you just have issues in these team fights. It's already really hard to lock in, nothing to say. You're going to have to clump up for it. And once you're clumped up, Xingqiu and Faith Beyond are going to get to town.
See another smoke out. They'll head down towards the south, through the mid lane. Who are they going to find? Faith Beyond on that Visage showing up. Those Familiars will be an X out. This could be a big pickoff, but the Familiar stuns aren't going to be there. Still, the X is going to make it in time for the boat to land, and they'll find Faith Beyond. Familiars may not be so lucky either, as they will at least find one of them. And now they are into that mid-tier 1 tower with the Exorcism. Not going to be too hard for them to take them down. In fact, they're bouncing Q now on the Earthshaker. They'll find a second. Tim's just sniping from a mile away with that sharpshooter, slowing him down, and well, that'll be the mid-tier 1 tower gone.
Yeah, and that's the time we were talking about. Not quite the BKBs coming out, but they want to find more.
Trying to protect that Radiant Triangle. It's a lot of damage coming out from Arme, but not quite enough to finish off the job as Yopaj able to find his 4th kill of the game. Trains will not land on any. FBZ going to try and put the TP up, but the Familiars will be there just in the nick of time. They will find at least something for their trouble.
They get the big target out from LGD's end. It comes at heavy cost. And those kills, the tower take from Boom still feel a lot better for them to play off. And now the map shrinks a little bit more for LGD. They still have time to build up. And you are still getting some decent build up here on Ame. He's allowed to just play in that triangle. No contention coming out from Boom in that area outside of that one invasion. And they're just praying and hoping that eventually the Drown and the Ember are just going to be really hard to handle. For Boom, though, again, the BKBs are still on their way. That spell immunity is going to be a really big factor in the middle of these fights. The full raid pack is up on Faith Beyond. So again, if he does manage to use that item in time, Boom might have to spend more time trying to find that kill and give enough leeway for LGD to respond.
Losing Q. He gets spotted out here. Scam will move in. Yopaj, she'll be there with the backup. Kicks into the turret, will connect it. Looks like Q just has no way out of this one. They will lock him down with the bushwhack and take him out once again. That'll be the 5th kill for the Kunkka. Yopaj off to a fantastic start, 16 minutes in. They top lane, they might have a look at nothing to say. They land the silence though with the bushwhack. It seems like they will be able to find the bushwhack because FBZ, the sharpshooter, is going to be up at the Ember. Has the Yule Scepter, will go for the remnant towards the left side, and it looks like he's going to be just fine. He does have the stick charges. They don't have the burst damage for nothing to say.
He needed a +1 to try to find that kill. Valiant effort, not quite what they want, but it does shove nothing to say away, giving him more space again elsewhere to keep that farm game up. And Jackie is still getting his own build up. His own BKB is almost done. So it possibly could be just a triple BKB timing for Boom, where LGD, they're not going to have that same level of protection. Outside of the Yules coming out here on nothing to say, they're going to be very vulnerable to the damage here.
Nice shades out from nothing to say. Fisher will be there to follow up. The Tombstone has been dropped as well. This is going to be a fair bit of damage as the cast will land on both. Yopaj, he does have a BKB up. He'll pump it immediately. But it seems like they just want to at least take this Tombstone down to get this team fight started. It will get denied off. Multi-shot there from Arme. It's a lot of damage for Yopaj. He'll keep forward, keep moving forward at least to CQ. Let's go for a vision, he's trapped in the tree line right now. The bow will fly in, the sharpshooter's there. They'll find at least one as Tim's. We'll look for a bit more now, but nothing to say, he's just fine. He's going to be able to back his way out. They'll only find the Shaker. Still 2-9, 16 advantage. This whole time, Jackie is free farming. It's mid lane, and they go again. They found Yopaj another time. This time Arme, he's got so much damage, and they will be able to find that mid Kunkka. There's nothing to say. He wants a little bit more. He'll move in, but the silence is out from FBZ. Yules is out there to lock down FBZs. They should have the slows as well, but FBZ, he'll BKB up. He'll be just fine to back his own way away. They cannot lock him down through the BKB. You'll find a decent kill on the Kunkka, but that's going to be about it for LGD.
I think you're pretty happy for LGD though. If you force out those initial BKB uses, you only really lose your support, and you're starting to get some activity out from Ame. He's more than willing to join into these fights. So Boom have to be really cautious about going in like that. Like, you can't afford to just fully commit onto supports. You need bigger targets to kill off. Once those BKBs fade, LGD can just kind of dance around, and once they shrink in duration, these fights become a lot harder for Boom to kind of find their openings for.
The shot is there. FBZ does get locked down. Looks like LGD are ready to try and push forward here against Boom, but unable to really find the lockdown they're looking for. LGD treat for a better moment for themselves. Harsh hanging around, but he might be a bit too much of a tanky target to try and go on. LGD still hanging around on the low ground, but doesn't seem like they're going to try and make their way up to the high ground for now. Well, again, I think the main kind of focus you have to have on here is Jackie on that Bloodseeker. He's 10k net worth right now. He's just absolutely huge. And Arme, he's not too far behind, but Jackie, it just seems like he's getting away with it a little bit too much. They will see nothing to say. No way to lock down the Ember, so he'll just kind of ignore him and go for the creep wave. Letting Jackie farm like this, always a scary affair.
Yeah, he just knows how to work the map really well. Very efficient as a carry. Has been for a long time, since his time on Motivate Trust. And speaking of Motivate Trust, I believe his former teammates here, Mr. Fearless, all the way from Thailand. Lots of people watching, of course. Working onto the Basher here for Jackie. So, gonna try to get some control going his way. Again, with all the room he has, that Basher timing's gonna be pretty good. Yo, Macho.
Beyond, he'll lose a Familiar. X is there on nothing to say, but he's going to run it out a little bit too early, so the X-Back is there. Won't matter though, the follow-up is not going to be up from Boom. Be a smoke out though, Boom. See what they can find with this. Wrap around through that dire jungle. It's like LGD, they have smoked themselves as well. Sides, looking for that opportunity. A bit harder for Boom to try and make the way through the Radiant Triangle, just not having the vision, but LGD might be waiting. Arme, he's a huge target. The X is there. They have a way to drag it back, but the torrent's not going to land in time. Oh, they missed time it. Why? He moved in to try and defend Arme and has done so. Meanwhile, Jackie gets caught out. He does pop his BKB in the stick charges. He'll barely survive. Meanwhile, FBZ in the middle of nowhere is forced to pop his own BKB and make his own retreat. Fisher, though, gonna lock a couple down into the follow-up. Tim's trying to run. More stick charges. Yopaj will finally throw the boat out, but the chains are there to lock him down with the familiars. Yopaj, which way is he going? He wants a Roshan tonight, but he's not gonna find it. Faith Beyond will be able to take the killers now. Nothing to say. He'll find another. It's gonna be Scam on the edge. The Fisher will be enough to just keep him down and take him out. That's 2 down for the side of Boom Esports. LGD really finding a great way of pushing back here against the Dire.
It boiled down to just small mistakes, not being able to kill off Ami. He did have the Force Staff to save, so that did complicate that in that fight, having that way of just dodging out from control from Boom. And those are massive losses. Like, even Stem dying there, he had a gem, free gem coming out for LGD. They just melt the Roshan. You're starting to see that power of the Drown and the Visage. They just do so much work when they're grouped up together. And Boom, they've got to be a little bit more careful. They miss out in the torrent, as we see in the replay, and it just kind of falls apart from there.
It certainly does. They didn't retreat in time, like Jackie getting caught out, barely surviving through that. The Echo Slam proving not to be enough damage here from Q, and even FBZ forced to pop his own BKB. LGD doing a fantastic job of just kiting this team fight out perfectly, and of course the reinitiation there from Q. Exactly what kind of allowed them to punish Yopaj, who had no choice but to try and go for the deny with the Roshan, but just doesn't end up working out in his favor. Just unable to get the attack animation off with the slows from Faith Beyond.
Boom, I mean, it's just getting a little bit difficult. LGD, with the Aegis up, can take a little bit more risk in these fights. They could look to just take more objectives. The mid-tier one still standing could be a nice juicy one to start to force into the Boom's jungle and just shrink the map even more. Like, they are still getting build up everywhere else. Like, Yopaj with the plate mail gonna feel a lot more durable up front, but again, it just boils back to burst damage. If Fate Beyond puts his body forward with a raid packed up, he is such a huge nuisance that you do have to notice. You can't just ignore the Visage in these fights, but they also can't handle him. And they have to execute here on Boom. It just feels like, again, we're seeing that difference in execution here, Mike, where LGD, it's a very well-oiled machine, and Boom, sometimes every now and again, there's a little bit of jankiness in the movement out.
It certainly is. LGD grouped up top lane, maybe going for a bit of a push on that T2 tower. They've hit a very nice timing now. The security of the Aegis for Arme feel very safe moving into this tower, but there is going to be a smoke up from Boom. They want to try and defend this. Through the mid-river, will be a double damage available on Yopaj.
Radiant's middle tower
exact
is
buff
under
they kind of need here to take the fight on with LGD.
Are fortified.
See if they can find Q on the back first. Because Faith Beyond going to be there as well, but they're all in the tree line. Q pings around, but a nice Fisher. Q locking down a couple again into the Echo. FBZ, he will get the BKB up in time. They're still trying to force the fight, but is this the one they really wanted? The boat is out. Yopaj, he's already retreating. He can't find the target he really needed to go after. And now FBZ, another nice Fisher, lock them down, take him out. Scam, he'll get yours up. He's not making that either. LGD, it just seems like they knew they were coming. They had just the superior vision, stayed in the tree line, and just surprise them and just don't show anyone.
Q just in the perfect spot to break that smoke, and Boom overcommit. They feel the pressure to try to make these plays. They don't manage to land on targets they want, and Q's just been a nuisance with these Fishers throughout all these fights, just finding the perfect angles to cut off Boom.
Dire's structures
he
are
has
fortified.
Q a real nuisance. As you saw, he tried to find Arme this whole time, but just unable to get him. It's the ward placement here from LGD, just fully prepped for that fight. Actually, at least Scam will be the second pick up here. It's LGD really looking quite strong now. Still a 2k net worth lead available for Boom, but it's really nothing to write home about. We're 25 minutes into the game. It's a very even one between these two teams. Still could go either way, but it's all about these team fights. It's all about the next Roshans. Speaking of Roshans, Aegis is still available for Arme, so you just never really had the risk of losing it this whole time. You kind of wonder, what does Boom do now? Like, do you want to slow down the game? Do you keep trying to find LGD? Like, what's the idea?
Step lively now. Your Admiral is on board.
You need to at least maintain equilibrium here. Don't lose ground up against LGD. They've lost their gold lead entirely. You've got some protection coming out now for Ame. Lincoln Sphere up. So you can't just try to X her back. And that just makes things so much more difficult. Feels like this game is starting to boil down to Tim's getting a good bushwhack off. Easier said than done. And the Drow is sitting so far away. They could try to mount defense for the tier 1, but it's pretty late in the game to kind of keep that alive.
Change the route, that's a big target. Yopaj once again forced the BKB early just to run his way up, but they'll still lose the mid-tier 1 tower. A double Temitron also being spotted out. The Skem might be able to deny it off and does. He'll get away with it, not allowing nothing to save to pick that one up for himself. He's bottled it up. That LGD, they'll take over that dire triangle. Very strong position, deny more farm away from Jackie. Might just try and head over to the other side of the map. It just doesn't feel like they're ready to actually fight yet.
They've got so much to play with now on LGD. It just feels like when you've got these heroes that can constantly run in and slowly poke and prod with the Ember, you've got the mobility coming out now on Sinq. He's got the full blink up with a slam ready to go. And he's been a menace without that blink. With that blink up, it's just going to be so much more difficult for Boom to get anything done. But LGD in a really good spot right now. 7 to 10, slightly behind in kills. Not fully back in that worth, but they've evened that deficit out. And they're the ones with the initiative. They're the ones working the map well. They're the ones forcing these issues onto Boom.
Spotted why he'll move in with the Glimmer Cape. Jackie seems to know they're right behind him. A nice Fisher out from Sinq, and Jackie's been locked down. Oh, that's a massive kill out for LGD. Stims also being chased down. They won't mind losing the Hoodwink. They got the Pos 1 Bloodseeker.
Massive win for LGD. Jackie just trying to farm where he can. LGD understanding that where they have to be. They have got good wards watching that top jungle. They just came from the triangle, so they knew the only spot Jackie would have to be in is in that triangle on the Radiant side. And the punishment is severe. LGD, the damage output coming out from Ame just with a Hurricane Pike and the Lincoln Sphere, it's more than enough. No one's there to gap close. And that marksmanship aura is always going to be active.
And it will. Very tough. Just haven't seen any kind of risk for Ame at all. He's always just been in the perfect position every single time. Just unable to catch him out. Continues that farm now, top of the network board on the Drow. Nothing to slow him down. The well-oiled machine you talked about running now is they're the ones that need to try and find an answer for this game number 2. You kind of wonder what they do here though. I mean, they're sitting back for now, they're just playing a little bit defensively, but it just feels like they've lost all the lead they had, and with the time that LGD's hit, they can just take their time with this one. There's just no rush for game 2.
Just build up, keep getting that farm you want onto your Drow. I think the one thing Boom could try to do, a little bit cheeky, go for the shard on Yopaj ASAP. Get the tidal wave, pull back the Drow. That could be one way for you to get Ame out of position. Easier said than done, but it feels like you need that disruptiveness in these fights. The Ag shard, maybe even the Ags down the line, because you're not seeing any big BKBs here.
Thank you. He's going to jump in. He has found Tims with the Hoodwink. More staff away, may not be enough, but no, it will be. They've got double. Tims looking just fine as the zombie will chase him down, but won't be enough. Won't pursue any further. LGD is still very careful themselves. They're not overextending, they're not giving any openings over to Boom. Want to fight nearby that tier 2 tower in the mid lane. Now Jackie, walking on towards his Eye of Skadi, has a Blink Dagger up as well. Yopaj, he'll try to rotate to defend the bot lane. It does do so, but can't find the familiars. 8 to 10, still a 2k advantage the way of LGD. Still a very close match, but I just feel like Boom are the ones that need to find an answer, as they might smoke up, and they do. Smoke on smoke situation. Across the other side of the map, the only thing they really see right now are the familiars. Because FBZ, he'll just try to secure those instead, and well, he gets one of them, might find a second, but they are going to be spawned back up by Faith Beyond.
The awkward position for both sides. Roche still a ways off, so even if you lose this next fight, you might have the opportunity to fight back over Sinq.
Very aggressive play. We'll get it start back to the Torrent and the boat. They might find the Shaker, and they will. It's something. Nothing to say. Shows the mid lane, will creep skip. Just backs towards his team once again. Both sides just waiting for the next Roshan. Still a couple minutes away though. Seems like Boom will try to infiltrate their jungle once again. Near wards off while they can. FBZ who'll look for the outpost. GD, they are grouped up, ready to go whenever. Seems like they are not going to make the jump in. Not yet, at least. Again, Roshan still a bit away, though. Moving on to FBZ. Just fine, though. Just a bit of chip damage coming up from Nothing to Say.
They're working to this point where they might get this blink up on Tims. So you're going to have a little bit more of an easier time for the Hoodwink to try to line up those hits with the Bushwhack, get that much needed control in the middle of these fights. Again, it does feel like a lot of it starts to boil down onto Tims trying to surprise him. The X is just a little bit too telegraphed. We've got the BKB up and running as well for Ame, so much easier for him to dodge out if need be in the middle of these engagements as well.
Chains around on the edge. Skim just fine to back his way out. No problems here. Shun now 1 minute away. LGD, they're the ones that are really keeping tabs with these familiars, but do at least have the skeletons coming in from Skem as well. They go for a smoke. We've got a 5-on-5 situation here in the mid lane. Move there, gets a pre-initiation first. The Fisher is there, but the BKBs are out. Time. The Tombstone is being focused. Both sides not really sure if they want the fight. Skem, he's going to get jumped on. They found Yoko, but the boat is out of time. Full stuff away. They need to save the Conquer. Skem, he's the one in trouble, but no, they look back towards Yoko. They should have him. Faith Beyond takes him down onto FBZ. They'll find the Death Prop and they'll just burst it down. So much damage coming up from Faith Beyond. Name just standing right behind him. It's like, how do you actually get to this Drow or the Visage?
They have no reach. It just boils down to the fact that they don't have a high mobility initiator that can dance in, something like the Ember of Nothing to Say, to try to catch the back line, to try to stop Ame from dishing a million damage in one engage. And off the back of that, with a double damage rune, of course, for Ame, Roche doesn't last too long here. Boom. He had a great start. It just gets harder from here, it feels like. Even with all the durability in Yopaj with the AC, if no one can touch Ame, all the armor in the world doesn't matter.
Yeah. Once again, now a 6k advantage. You'll see the replay, and there was a nice initiation, at least from CQ, forcing out 3 BKBs with that one Fisher. They just retreat immediately after seeing those BKBs, just no hesitation from LGD. They understand they just need to wait those out, move back in, and then just get right to work. And you can try to run, but there's just so much slow available here as they are even going for tier 3 towers now. LGD, they understand the lead they have. Boom, again, they just haven't found the opening throughout this game. Trying to slow it down, but the tier 3 tower is already gone.
Radiant's bottom tower.
Shot there from Ame, just guiding out Yopaj, will hold down the Conquerors. There's your Bushwhack out there, find Nothing to Say, but he's got the Yule Scepter. Barney is going to connect it with the Tidal Wave and the Rupture, but it's not going to be it. The Sharpshooter, he jukes it out. Oh, what a juke from Nothing to Say. Fisher is there, seeing Q locking them down once again, not letting them get out. Oh boy, 3 down for the side of Boom. This is looking real bad now. LGD, they will go for the tier 4 towers. How do you stop them?
Place behind me.
It's difficult. Maybe you get a good tidal wave back. We saw Yopaj trying to make that play, but man, it's so much easier to do what LGD is doing. Just keep pushing in, play with the damage you have on hand. Fortify Forest out. Tier 4 about to fall, 16 HP left. LGD so confident, they still have Aegis, there's nothing to be scared of.
Absolutely not. The tier 4 towers once again, Skim trying to set up. He did buy back, but it's just waiting for a few more respawns. Tier 4, they're dropping so darn low. They're onto the Ancient now, Boom. Still waiting for the respawns, but they're not coming in time. They've got to try and rush for this, but the Ancient is just completely going down. CQ is holding everyone back. They finally pick it, but it's too late. It is just too late, LGD. I can't sugarcoat it, John. They made this series look easy. 2-0 the way of LGD, and